What is up, film fans? I'm Rob Metcalf. This is Friday Night Film, and this is our spoiler review of Episode 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, I'm sure y'all don't want to listen to me just sit here and talk to it about by myself. So with me, I've got my buddy Jenna. Jenna, say hi to the people.
Hi, people!
So, me and Jenna, we've known each other a while. We do cons and everything together. We're both big Marvel fans. That's kind of the reason we kind of teamed up on this to, give y'all, talk a whole lot more doing some back and forth than we can just talking about ourselves. So, Jen, I guess my first thing, this being the second, Marvel show we've had on Disney Plus, what were your expectations after how amazing WandaVision was going into The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Man, I've had to, since I became a Marvel fan, I've had to go into everything with, next to zero expectations. I mean, you never know what they're going to pull off, and, the movies definitely prove that, and it's the same thing with these shows. With, WandaVision, I was expecting, everything to be kind of sitcom-y, and her, learning to live after she comes back from the blip. Or even if, the everything happening in Westview was her version of the blip. I didn't know. And the same thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I'm going into this zero expectations, have a lot of hopes, but I don't over or underestimate Marvel with anything at this point.
Now, I may be the complete opposite on that. I've got so used to excellence for Marvel that I'm just like, I already know it's going to be good. It's just, is it going to be like an 8 or a 10? I know it's going to be somewhere in there. They never seem to have let me down. The closest they've ever come to let me down is maybe Iron Man 2. And I'll admit something that I know you don't even know about me, but my least favorite Marvel movie is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, mine is actually Guardians of the Galaxy 2, so yeah.
Fair. Well, see, I liked it much better than the first one. I think the problem with that one was, for me, was the expectations, because I didn't get to go see it on opening night like I do most.
Yeah.
So I got to hear everybody just talk about how great it was, how great it was, how great it was. And it's not that it's terrible by any stretch. It's still a very enjoyable movie.
It is.
But for me, it's kind of my least favorite. But, going into this, I think the Captain America trilogy has been one of my favorite trilogies of everything, and I know you absolutely agree. I mean, we can just tell by the background in your room.
Yeah, this is a nerd lair wall. It's the only thing missing on this are all the Funko Pops that I have. So, and I have made a point to get one Captain America and one Bucky Barnes from every collection that they've had one. So I have a whole entire corner that's nothing but just my Cap and Bucky Funko Pops. So
yeah, but like I said, expectations were high, especially after WandaVision. The only thing that I was really kind of hoping for, and it seems like we got in this first episode, was I wanted the episode just to be just a tad longer than WandaVision was.
Oh, absolutely.
But we're only getting 6 of these, so we also got to deal with that.
But it's very maddening because I just recently did an entire MCU watch with my mom, and she had never, she would watch a movie here or there with me, but only if it was background noise. But we actually sat down and watched them. So I've just recently gone through everything again, and I'm just I want so much more out of these episodes, but I know I have to be patient. But it's so hard because I'm used to a 2-3 hour movie, and now I have to wait weekly between these show serials. And, thanks to all the streaming platforms, it's something I don't really have to do anymore. So that's just so hard.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it has been nice having new content kind of every week. That's been a really great thing. The other expectation I had for this one compared to WandaVision is I really wanted a lot more action out of this one, because I felt like WandaVision was more character development.
Yes.
And even though there was some amazing action scenes in this, I think we're going to get more character development than even I thought we would in this one.
I'm excited for that. Like, not to jump ahead with anything, there was more character development for both Sam and Bucky within 45 minutes than there have been in 10 years worth of movies.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I'm loving that. Absolutely.
It's going to make you fall in love with Bucky even more.
Um,
We'll be honest.
I don't know how much that's going to happen because it's pretty high up there already, but most definitely. So,
Okay. So now we'll kind of switch gears from expectations. We probably won't go in exact order because Lord knows we'll get sidetracked and probably talk about all of it. But the first scene that kind of popped into my head that I thought at first is the scene when we first kind of see Sam and he's like getting dressed up in the suit. Now I know my first thought was, oh my God, he's going to Steve's funeral. Is that where you were kind of at on that?
Everybody kept telling me, it's going to be Steve's funeral. He's wearing a suit, that's got this big banner of Steve in the background. And I said, do not put that out into the universe. I can't handle that. I'm like, it's bad enough that he turned into old man Steve. But now I'm like, no, I can't think about it. I know, I can't. So thankfully for my peace of mind, Marvel must have been, hey, we need to listen to Jenna. And let's not show this, even if he does die at like 112. Let's just not show it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I did think Sam was possibly in the right, giving up the shield, saying, I'm not ready to take on this mantle. Mm-hmm. It's actually Steve's mantle. But that would be a really hard decision for anybody. I mean, even though Steve, Sam is an Avenger, mm-hmm. how can you be Steve Rogers? I mean, I don't see there's any way anybody could be the true Captain America.
Exactly. And it's like he said at the end of Endgame, he said, it feels like it belongs to someone else. And although Steve disagreed with him, he's known Steve for years. He also knows the history of Steve from back during World War II. And he knows, I'm not this kind of person. And, I don't think he is just yet. But I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that character development with him being like, okay, maybe I am this person who needs to take this on. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, really hoping by the end of these 6 episodes, he gets the mantle back.
Right. Now, another question I have is about the shield itself. Steve's shield got destroyed at Endgame. At what point did he get a new shield? I mean, I'm sure it's when he was back in time somewhere. Do you think he went back and had Howard Stark make him one before he died? Or do you think that it's a different material even since it looks a little different? Like, where do you think that shield came from?
There could be multiple ways. I think I remember. Do I remember this correctly? In Endgame, when he suited up to go back in time, he actually had a shield with him.
Did he?
I thought so. Maybe not. Maybe that's just kind of like one of those Mandela effects. But I know he had things in his hands. I thought a shield was one of them. I know he had the hammer.
It may have been. That's one I'm not 100% sure on. Now I'm going to have to go back and watch just to see. Because I'm really curious. Because I did see one theory out there that they're thinking, okay, well, maybe he had the shield remade by Howard, but it's not vibranium this time.
I mean, you don't know. It could be. They could have gone, I know it's not technically the full MCU route, but in the comics, it's both adamantium and vibranium. So, he could have remade it to make it more of a comic shield or shield type. But we're also kind of in pretty tight with the Wakandans now. So I'm wondering if maybe they just didn't say, hey, here's more vibranium for you. Mm-hmm. Here's another here's more shield stuff. So.
Now, and I'm sure you've seen during WandaVision how many people thought that would be a way to introduce the mutants into the MCU. I'm sure you saw all the theories. And I kind of wanted it, I'm not going to lie. So now I'm like, well, if they took the shield, what if it is adamantium and not vibranium now? And that's how they start trying to introduce Wolverine, like, not maybe in the show, but start down that road.
That would have been a great twist, especially they really, really got us with WandaVision, especially with bringing Evan Peters in like they did. So
I
everybody's like, "Oh
know.
man, they're bringing in the X-Men Quicksilver. This is the best." And I'm like, "No, something's fishy there. Something's fishy." I
I
would
knew
have
something
loved to
wasn't
have seen
right.
mutants. But no, I'm like, I knew something was up with that. And of course, I was also one of the people who was like, nope, Mephisto's behind everything. And then, no, it was Agatha all along. So,
Yeah. True. True. Um, so we'll stay on Sam and then we'll just go on to Bucky here in a little bit. So that action scene with Sam when he's flying around the helicopter, to me, that's the first time I feel like we've really got to see how great Sam's suit actually is.
oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like in the other movies, you've seen him use it a little bit. I think the best idea we got of that was when Ant-Man got the compound. That's the biggest like solo action scene we've seen out of Sam till this point. But now I'm just like, for a television show, the way that looked and how long that played out just blew my mind.
That was probably their entire budget for like everything. That's what I think anyway. It was an amazing sequence, and I am really really angry that they ended up being bringing Baltrock back, because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I thought we were done with him after the Winter Soldier, but apparently not. But no, that entire action sequence where he was like flying in and around the helicopters and dodging missiles, and I'm just like, you are much braver than I am, because I may not be afraid of heights, but I'm afraid of falling from those heights. Oh,
Yeah.
I would no, I couldn't have done it.
Now, talking about Sam taking over the Cap Belt, to me, that proved he has the courage to be Captain America. He just may not have, I guess, the feelings inward to be as wholesome as Steve was. I guess
Right.
I think that's his problem, but I'm not 100% sure. But
And I can see that. I can see that. And I think a lot maybe too with his own backstory that we've gotten just a smidgen of in this first episode, maybe causing him to be like, you know what, I left home, all this other stuff. I'm not the kind of person who would be able to take on this whole Captain America persona when, I left. But I mean, we're going to get more with Sam, and I am super excited to learn more about him and to maybe see him work through his reservations of not taking on the title Captain America.
yeah. Now, I hope they explain a little more too of how and why that he went and just worked with the Air Force instead of trying to work more with the Avengers. Do you think that has to do more with like the Soviet Accord type thing, or
Maybe. I was questioning that myself, because when I really started thinking of things, and I hate to bring it up, it's from Endgame, when Bruce Banner says what they broke up like the Beatles. I mean, really, like with the core six Avengers now, half of them are either old or dead, and the other half, I don't know how much use. Or no, it was Infinity War. Sorry, I'm gonna get back on track. I promise. Um, it was when in Endgame we see Hulk. He's got like that bad arm. He can't really do much with it. Natasha's dead. Tony's dead. You're not gonna make Steve suit up and fight anybody when he's as old as he is. And so
right?
that leaves Hawkeye and and Bruce. Am I missing somebody else? Thor.
Yeah, but Thor's off world
Thor's
with the
off world
Guardians
half the
doing
time.
God knows what.
Right. So, we don't know where Thor is, so that just leaves the two of them. And so really, the others like Sam and Wanda, well, we know what Wanda has been up to. But
Right,
then Sam, but that's really all the Avengers that were left. Who else is he going to work with other than like a military branch? But no,
right,
some of it definitely does make me think of like the Sokovia Accords. And although Sam didn't sign them in the beginning, by working with the military, he's had to have done something like that. So they call him in. Hey, you need to fix take care of this. And then he's kind of like he said, he's contracted to do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of other Avengers, we did see Rhodey in this episode, which I thought it was a great placement because Rhodey would have been at something like that. But now for pure speculation, do you think we will see another Avenger before the end of this series?
I mean, I can look at it logically and, go back on some behind the scenes things that have, like, all the comic book websites have released saying, there's been an Avenger sighted on, Falcon and the Winter Soldier set. Looking at it that way, the only person that they released was Don Cheadle. But now, do I hope we get to see more? I mean, of course, I hope we're going to see more.
I mean, everybody can't have enough of it.
I love them when they work together to figure out this issue and they take care of it. But I ultimately don't know. I hope so. And we know that there's got to be some kind, or at least I hope there's some kind of tie-in to when Loki starts in June.
Oh, I didn't think of that. So we might get a brief Loki appearance, possibly somehow, even if it's a post-credit scene type of thing.
I would love that. That would be amazing.
And see, I also question too. I'm like, do you think we'll get? Because I know he's not. At least they're saying he's not under any kind of contract. But do you think we could get an appearance by Steve, whether it be Old Man Steve, a flashback of something that happened with Steve?
That is all the hopes and dreams that I have ever had. But yes. No, I really do hope so, because I think somebody needs, and it could be Bucky, simply because he and Bucky were best friends for years. And ultimately, age-wise, Bucky could be able to talk some sense into Sam. Be like, listen, you needed to do this. But if anybody can really talk some sense into Sam, it would be Steve. And if he's not dead, I would love to see Old Man Steve make an appearance.
Now, if it would have been for the untimely passing of Chadwick Boseman, I'd say there's probably a good chance that Black Panther could have showed up because of the relationship with him and Bucky, where they were all in Wakanda for so long. Which we might get to see somebody from the Black Panther movie make an appearance. It may not be a Avenger. You may see like a Shuri or something along that line show up, just because they all have connections.
Yeah, I would like to see that, especially kind of like if anything, maybe Bucky getting his arm tweaked or something. Getting his arm not rebuilt, because it looked pretty sturdy in most of those scenes, but just fixed.
Well, I mean, you may get to a point they have a big fight scene and his arm gets damaged or something too, because there's going to be some point that they're going to have a battle and not win it. I mean, that's just that could be something that could bring some of that in. I mean, it may never happen. It's just cool speculation to talk about, but I could definitely see basically anybody from Wakanda kind of showing up.
I would love that.
Okay, so now we're sticking with Sam. We've been kind of talking about Avengers for a minute. Now, I did like the scene when they went to the bank and Sam was trying to get a loan to save the boat for his family. And they're all talking about how he didn't have any income for 5 years, but it was because he was blipped for 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. And, and it actually mirrors pretty well with, the economy that's going on right now. I think that with the pandemic, a lot of people will be able to identify with especially Sarah's struggles to get funding for the business. I know that they couldn't have predicted COVID was going to happen when they wrote this episode, but it fits really well. And it's just with a lot of, I can't. My brain is going a mile a minute. But no, like, especially with that bank scene, and you're right. How are you going to have any kind of income for 5 years when you didn't exist for 5 years?
Exactly, because like I love how he said everybody is coming trying to get money that was blipped
Right.
because it was what something like 3 million billion people that got dusted. So I mean, there's all those people that are going to need to support things that they
Oh
couldn't
yeah,
while they were out.
absolutely. And you know that if even if they were blipped, um, when they came back, like all these banks and stuff are just going to pile on the interest. How in the heck are somebody supposed to, pay that off when they've not, they've only having their, and who knows even what happened with their bank accounts when they came back. They could have been, oh, this person's gone, just close it out.
Right, because I wondered that about like, did they foreclose houses? Like, did other people just inherit the money when they died? Like,
Right.
there's so much to wonder about when it comes to the blip. I mean, we could do a whole show on just what we think happened during the blip.
I
Um,
now need Marvel to do an entire show
See, I
about
wouldn't mind seeing one of their like Marvel shorts that just goes into different things, just 2 or 3 minutes a piece of like, oh, somebody comes undusted, what happens to them? Like,
Right.
no, Kevin Feige's came out and said that everybody came back safely, so somebody was in a plane, they didn't just reappear in the sky. But I
Right.
would be like, did they reappear in the plane? Like,
Well,
even though the plane was on the ground?
right. And if you really think about it, I mean, that would be cool though if they just ended up in the plane. But if you really think about it, at the beginning of Spider Man Far From Home, when it actually showed footage of like a basketball game, when the marching band came unblipped and like they
Mm-hmm.
were like running into each other. So, I mean, like that is something I just kind of want to see like those little snippets. And we saw in WandaVision where, um,
Where
Monica came back
Monica came
and
back.
like a bunch of people from the hospital were coming back. I need to call my wife. She's not here. Monica was in there with her mom, and then her mom's not in the room. So, I would very much so like to see some kind of short about people coming back and the aftermath because we didn't get much of anything other than, hey, these people are back. Well, let's get back to the storyline.
Right, right. Now, also in that, the other big thing I noticed is everybody like he started asking Sam, the banker did. He's like, how did the Avengers get paid? And he's like, oh no, it's all on goodwill. And there's part of
Tony
me that's
Stark
like,
was bankrolling that. Tony was
I'm sure he was
bankrolling it.
paid for probably like housing and food and stuff, but I guess Tony just never thought to be like, oh, here's a salary, you know, because like he's paying for the compounds and all that,
Oh
but
yeah, and the suits and all the technology. But I think this is where I like when I come in and where I read a bunch of fan fiction and I beta read a lot of fan fiction, is that, a lot of those are like, no, Tony gives them like, monthly allowances. Here's all this. But yet if there's like a big gala or something coming up, here's his black card, go buy yourself a nice dress.
right,
But
right. So basically, what you're saying is you think Tony was paying him, but it was like off the books, so like the bank wouldn't see it.
oh yeah.
Okay, okay. So that's good. So let's see. What else have I missed with Sam here? Like, what else?
I mean, other than the fact that I really think he messed up by giving the shield to the Smithsonian. But I understand where he was coming from. He's like, this isn't mine. I would like to see him end up getting the Sam Wilson Captain America shield
Mm-hmm.
from that particular, comic run. I would love to see that.
Right.
But
Now I'm trying to remember the guy he was working with. What was that guy's name? The guy in the
Joaquin
military.
Torres.
Torres.
I
Yes,
love me
Torres.
some Torres. We only had like 10 minutes, like total screen time of him, but I'm like, I like this kid. Let's keep him around for a while.
Well, see, I decided to Google the name,
Uh-huh.
and then when I Googled it, I realized that he had actually taken up the mantle of Falcon before, if you look it up from the comics.
What? No.
So now I'm like, if Sam takes up the Captain America mantle, Torres may take up the Falcon man.
I can see that because he was very interested in that suit and with Sam flying around.
Exactly.
That was, I was also geeking out when he was geeking out at what the suit could do or the wings could do.
Oh, a good scene between Sam and Torres too is when they were sitting at the little like cafe eating, and Sam's like working on the suit, and like Torres tries to touch it. And he's like, no, every time the military touches it, it messes up. Yep. Do you think they may have been sabotaging Sam's suit in some way, or they just didn't know how to work on it?
Maybe a little bit of both. Especially, with this particular government who is making like all the supers and the enhanced and stuff when they present themselves, sign the Sokovia Accords or, probably go to jail or like very, very close watch. I think they would have tried to maybe not sabotage Sam's wings, but maybe try to put a tracker on it so they know where he is at all times. Mm-hmm. And know that he's not doing like missions off the books.
Right. Now, see, I'm in a little bit of a different camp, which we'll save the final scene till kind of the end of this. But because of that final scene, it's very obvious that people that say they're on Sam's side are not on Sam's side. Like, So I'm thinking maybe they are sabotaging because they're wanting to set him up for something on down the road in the series.
I can definitely see that. Especially, we're not going to talk about the final scene just yet, but if you know that character and you know the backstory of that character, oh no, just by the government implementing that person, oh no, it's shady AF. It's bad. And I'm like, exactly. Oh god. When it was over, I like threw pillows and stuff. I'm like, no.
But yeah, that's I think there's because like I felt too like during the mission, Sam should have had some more backup to rescue that guy instead of just getting thrown into that. It's like we don't care if you die, just go try to do this. I feel like it was almost a suicide mission. Just Sam's good enough that it didn't matter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, since we can't talk about that final scene yet, since we want to save that to the last, because Lord knows we'll have plenty to say when we get to that, let's take a shift over to Bucky real quick and kind of how Bucky's storyline went. Actually, before I do that, let me mention, I thought it was weird in a show called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier that we have yet to see Bucky and Falcon together.
Yeah, I can see that as well, but I also know that we need to kind of see them separately before they get together because, we've seen that Bucky works better as a team with somebody, whether it be Steve and the Howling Commandos or even Sam and as Falcon. Like in the airport scene there in Civil War, they worked really good kind of together despite their frenemy-ship that they have. Yeah. But I can see them being apart first and then get the ball rolling with, okay, we have something we have to do. We need to take care of this. But
I will say I felt like they did a good job with character development with both of them. Because I feel like even if you weren't a big Marvel fan before, if you just like started right here watching this show, you learn enough about both their backstories that you would be into the character. So I think that helped a whole lot.
Yeah, it really did. And I don't know if I mentioned it before or not, but we get a lot of backstory with both of these characters, more so than we've had in the last like 10 years of movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, like, I'm really glad to see them fleshing these characters out. Now, I know them simply because I have been, reading the comics as I can. But they are pretty flat when it comes to the movies right now and the MCU in general. So I'm really glad to see them fleshing out so we can see the depth of their decisions and what they are doing to, help the world out.
Right. Now, I know with the action scene with Bucky, which we learned later that it was kind of a nightmare sequence, but I know when it first started, I was like, holy shit, did somebody brainwash him again? Like, I didn't realize till like halfway through, maybe even a little more than that, that it was going to be a dream sequence and it was something that had already happened. If it wouldn't have, if it, the hair's what finally gave it away for me.
Oh no, I saw it like as soon as that arm went through the wall. I was sitting there and like mom was on one side of the living room and I was sitting in the recliner and I was like, what the heck? And then I saw the red star on the arm. I said, this is a flashback. I said, this is either a flashback or a nightmare. That is not the Bucky that we have now. And she was like, well, if you would have waited 10 seconds, I would have been like, nope, it's the hair.
See, the hair's what got me, and then it kind of got confirmed for me. It was like, Hail Hydra. Like, that kind of confirmed. I wasn't sure at that point if it was flashback or nightmare, but I knew it was going one way or the other.
I wasn't expecting the Hail Hydra there, and that is not a couple of words that I take kindly to. But I was like, damn. I'm like, I never, heard him say that before. And I'm like, I shouldn't have liked that as much as I should have.
Right.
It's the same thing with Steve in the elevator in Endgame. He said, Hell Hydra. I said, that should not affect me like it should have. I'm like, am I going to the bad side? But, no, I'm cool as long as, it's flashback and stuff. But seeing him wake up in a dead sweat on the floor broke my heart. I'm like, just let me hug him. I mean, like, my hugs are awesome. I can like fix him. I can fix this. I can get him better.
Now, what you said, he was sleeping on the floor. Yep. Do you remember when Steve had the conversation about the mattress being too soft?
Yeah.
I can't remember which one that was in now.
It was in the Winter Soldier. It was after the run sequence where the on your left and Steve had Sam was leaning against a tree, and anyway, Steve comes up and they talk about the bed. He was like, it's your bed, isn't it? And they started talking about their war stories, but Sam says it's like sleeping on a marshmallow. Or maybe it was Steve. I can't remember.
I think it was Steve. But I wondered if that wasn't kind of a little bit of a throwback to that line's the reason that Bucky was on that, because they've all been through so much that's how they just got used to sleeping and resting.
I mean, it definitely could be. And if we really think of Bucky's past, before he falls off the train, they are in Europe fighting Hydra. So they are going to be sleeping in all these different locations, not knowing if they're going to have a bed or not. So they're going to be on cots, on the ground, all this other stuff. And then he has like 70 plus years of being frozen and, woken back up. The kid probably hasn't slept in a bed since he left Brooklyn in 1943.
Right.
So I'm like, I can see how he's doing this, but it still breaks my heart. I'm like, no. We've got to get Bucky better. Yeah.
Now, speaking of Bucky getting better, we did get to see Bucky go into therapy, and apparently that was part of his agreement with getting out of trouble.
Pardoned, right.
Yeah, getting pardoned and everything. I loved the dynamic between him and the therapist, because I felt like she was such a smartass to him to get him to say what he really needed to say and actually talk about his feelings. I think she knows that's the only way to kind of get through to Bucky.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And I really liked that because she's not babying him.
No.
And she knows that she can. And she said, I was a good soldier. I know what it's like. You need to be honest with me. and to that, it actually gave me a lot of respect for her. Do I remember her name? Did they even mention it? I don't know. But it gave me a lot of respect for her because she is trying. She's trying to get him to open up. She's trying to get him to not regret the things he did, knowing that he had been brainwashed into doing them.
Right. Now, I do like the fact that they were trying to have him make amends with all these people. And like, you get to see his little notebook that has his list in it. And I think that kind of went back to Steve's notebook about things to do that he missed, and I feel like that's like Bucky's way. Like they're really cool parallels, kind of seeing how they both wrote the list in the Notebook.
Right, absolutely. And it actually, I saw it on TikTok. To me, Steve's ending in Endgame always made sense. This is a guy who always wanted to, think about what his life was like in the past. There were many, many references over the movie saying, you know what, that was my life. I'm just going to have to move on with it. But Bucky lived through his past. And he just needs to move on from that. So for his list being the people, okay, I need to make amends with these people so I can move on safely or move on better. Steve's was, what do I need to catch up with? And I'm like, so that kind of makes a little more sense with me with how Steve went to the past and then Bucky stays in the present.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Lord. Now, when we're talking about his list, we don't know when we first meet the gentleman, but the older gentleman that he's kind of befriended, when we kind of find out that Bucky has been the one to kill his son, and that yet they've kept this little friendship. I didn't realize how important that nightmare sequence was going to be, realizing that it was his son that he killed at the end, until I went back and watched it the second time.
I had a feeling, and I read and write mysteries, so it's one of those things where I see something, I definitely know something is going to reference that later on. So when I saw the kid, I don't know how old he is, he's definitely younger than me. So when I saw the kid, and then Bucky shoots him, and then I see the older man later on, I was like, I bet you that was his son. Mm-hmm. And then, so to me, it wasn't really a surprise when they announced it. But it definitely, for Bucky to for Bucky to create this friendship with Yori because he's his son's murderer, it's both heartbreaking, but yet it's one of those things where, like, I hope that they can really make a friendship work, especially if Bucky, tells Yori, I was the person who did this to your son.
Now, see, I had a whole other theory of who that might be before we kind of found out about all that. I actually wondered if it wasn't somebody he served in World War II with, as old as that gentleman was. And I thought maybe they were old friends. But the time may not quite add up, because it would depend on how old that person was then.
Right.
But it was kind of my thought going when I was first watching. I was like, oh, damn, what if that's one of his old World War II buddies? But, apparently it wasn't. But that was kind of where my mind was going there for the first little bit. Especially when the guy's, like, trying to help him hit on the girl at the bar and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, speaking of that, so the old man asked the girl to go on a date with Bucky. They go all that. So Bucky shows up at the date. He brings her flowers, very old-fashioned. And then they sit there and they play Battleship. Like, I'm sorry. That's the coolest fucking quarantine date I've ever seen in my whole damn life.
Not only that, you're in the restaurant that she runs. So I'm like, okay, there's snackage. But, you've also got, like, a good companionship. And I would love the flowers. I was just like, oh, man, he's going back to his olden days. I loved it. I loved it
when she looked at him. She's like, now, how old are you? Like, kind of make fun of him. And he's like, what, 106?
It's like 106. And she thought he was joking.
No. And he's absolutely telling the truth. Like, I thought that was that was the funniest scene of the entire show to me right there.
It was amazing. I loved that one. And I think there was another one. Oh, when Bucky is making amends with the senator that the Winter Soldier helped put into office.
Oh, yes.
That one. I was just like, all right. I'm like, I know you're old, but you have had to have some kind of training with that little tablet that you've got to make that car do those things.
Oh yeah,
And like
absolutely.
I died laughing. I was
And I'm
like,
pretty
that is
sure he's
great.
breaking some of the rules of his pardon by doing that part.
He had to, because especially because they're in the therapy session when he's like, no, nobody was hurt, and he knocks the guy out. He's like, no, I'm not doing anything illegal, and then he hacks the car. I'm like,
Right.
that's the best. But it's canon for Bucky in the comics too. He's
Mhm.
doing these good things. He's just kind of doing them in a little shady way.
Right. Right. So I'm really curious. I'm curious to see over the next couple of episodes if we see Bucky not counting the old man, but try to make amends with anybody else. If that's something we'll see more of, or if that's just something that's going to be like, oh, okay, you've seen it now. We're going to move on with the story and get these two together and get everything going.
I mean, we know that Bucky's trying to make amends, and that may be where they stop it. To be like, okay, you see this is happening, it's going to continue to happen, maybe behind the scenes. I would like to see more, mostly because we've seen him make amends with the people who were left behind, like especially with
Mm-hmm.
Yori. But then we also see him make amends to even more people that he wronged by maybe, like I said, putting that senator into office, knowing that she's,
Right.
sketch. So they may or may not. And if they do, I will love it. If they don't, I understand.
Right. Okay, now, before we move on to that final scene, because I think we've touched pretty much the most of Sam and Bucky's stories pretty well. Um, I did notice a couple people that I knew were supposed to be in the show that were very obviously absent from this
Right.
episode. We never did see Zemo, and we never did see
We never saw
Sharon
Sharon.
either.
We never saw them. No. I don't really want to see Zemo again because that mostly means that he got out of prison some way. Maybe he was part of the blip and then he just comes back and, they let him out. I don't know why, because, he murdered a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, he could have escaped. Who knows? Sharon, though, with her position in the CIA, I kind of wonder if she's kind of following Torres and following this little group of, I don't know what they are. Are they enhanced? Are they mutants, inhumans, whatever? But that guy was super strong after he robbed whatever.
God damn, if that's how they bring in mutants, I'm gonna piss my pants. Like that would, oh god, I didn't even think of that. Oh Jesus.
So see, like there's they may end up bringing in anything like that. So I'm like, how does he have this such super strength? Is he a
Mhm.
knockoff Winter Soldier? Or, I know that Zemo had killed them. Maybe Zemo's after them too. Who knows?
Right.
But I think that Sharon may be trying to get in with that group to see like what they're doing to try to bust them up. That's typically what CIA does. But
Now, see, I have a good theory for Sharon. I think she's gonna be the one that's gonna get Bucky and Falcon together. I think she's gonna want to go after that group. She's gonna get both of them together. Now with Zemo, a lot of people are speculating he's gonna be like the big baddie of the series. I don't think so. I think that she's gonna bring him in, and the three of them are gonna have to work together. That he's actually gonna be working with Sam and Bucky.
I don't know if I like that or not. I'm I especially don't like it after the events in Civil War. I mean, you have
Right.
Zemo, he's trying to frame Bucky for killing like so many people. I'm like, my poor little precious plum was just trying to live his life in Romania peacefully. But no, he's got to come in, create this havoc, and now they want him to work together. I don't know if I can like that. I
See,
really don't.
I have this gut feeling that's where it's gonna go. And I heard somebody say I haven't went back and like freeze framed it to see, but somebody said that Zemo's name is on Bucky's list of people he needs to.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look this up. I am
Because
gonna have to look this up.
I'm like, if that's the case, that opens up a whole new can of worms for all of that too.
It does, and I don't think I like it. Holy shit! It says Helmet Zemo. Well, it says H Zemo.
Yes.
No.
So that's going to be my bold prediction from this episode, that all three of them are going to be working on the same. Well, all four of them, I guess, are going to be working on the same side.
I think my biggest issue is what does I don't know. I don't know. I have to wait and see. I have 6 weeks. We'll figure it out.
But okay. So now we got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and talk about that final scene that we know we're both dying to talk about, with the introduction of the new Captain America, or as I like to call him, the damn Dollar General version of Captain America.
I've seen like in the past. Well, it's not even been like a full day. Well, it has been a full day. The past 24 hours, I've seen him called Wish Cap. I've seen him Dollar General Cap, Walmart Cap, and I'm just like, just name him what he is. I'm just sitting there like, I saw the uniform. I said, that is freaking U.S. agent. No. I was so mad.
Now, see, like, I get that it is U.S. agent from the comics, but you think they'll ever refer to him as that? Or you think he's just going to be like discount Captain America?
I don't know. My biggest thing, I think he may end up being U.S. agent by the end of the season, or series. I don't know if they're going to try to continue on with Falcon and the Winter Soldier for a season 2 or not. But I think by the end of the run, we're going to see his true colors come out, mostly because I don't trust this government that's in, the MCU Earth. And especially this Captain America that they put into that position. And yeah, I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. And I'm a weakling, so that's
the part I think that bothered me the most about the new Captain America outfit is the gun that's strapped onto him. Because I'm like, with the exception of during actual war, you never really see
a gun.
No, he did not. He always used his shield as his primary weapon.
Yeah.
I know he picked up other things to kind of help him along the way, but he wasn't going to be one just to go in and shooting people. Right. Now, I don't know. Have you ever watched The Boys before? Did you watch it at all?
I've been told both by you and a lot of other people I need to, and but I haven't. And it is on my list, but I also have a lot of things on my list I have to work through. But it's definitely one that's on my Amazon list. So.
Right. Now, just for the other people that may be watching this, that kind of gave me some Homelander vibes from that show. Now, I know you don't know
who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, like that's who this discount Captain America remind me of.
I can see that.
And honestly, that scares me to such a degree because Homelander is so terrifying in that show. But then I also question, too, because I don't know a whole lot about this character from the comics. Does he have any actual real superpowers? Like, has he had any, like, the super soldier serum or anything along that line?
I can't remember if he's had any of the serum or anything, but I do know that he has some enhanced powers. But as for, like, the list of them, I can't remember right off. It's not one of those characters that I gobble up issues of to read. You can kind of tell from my background who my heart kind of belongs to. Right. So, it's mostly like, he's mentioned here and there. I do know that U.S. Agent is called Captain America in the comics very briefly, but it's mostly because he ended up not. I'm trying to remember the way it happened. He couldn't handle it. Mm-hmm. And he tried to do some Captain America things in not a very Captain America way. And that kind of, lost him towards a lot of people and maybe himself. So, but I'm just kind of worried, I don't know how they're going to take this. I've heard, of course, internet rumors. It could be anything. Could be true, not. I've heard that.
It's always Mephisto.
No, it's been Agatha all along. I will die if I see Catherine Hahn as Agnes any time in this series. But I think from like what I've heard, that this person is going to be the villain of the series.
I
And
can absolutely see that.
yeah, am I ready for it? No.
Now, see, my question is, if this person is the villain of it and he does go by Captain America, is he going to ruin the symbol for everybody with everything Steve did? Or was Steve so wholesome and great that everybody will just realize that it was somebody else and not just associate it with Captain America?
I don't know. I mean, that's a very good question. Like, for me, Steve Rogers and Captain America are two different people. Captain America is a title to uphold. Steve Rogers is just the person.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to be able to tell that, this is not Steve. This is not something that, Steve Rogers would do. So that may kind of tarnish the shield and the title to a lot of people. And that could be something that, by the end of this series, Sam is able to take that back and, be the new person to wield the
Mm-hmm.
shield that it's needed to be to uphold that Captain America title. I did
Now,
see some. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how much do you think the Avengers told the general public about what happened to Steve? Do you think, from what I'm gathering, it seems like there's like, oh, he retired. Like, they didn't say, oh, no, he went back in time and lived
Well,
with Peggy. And
no, I don't think they told him anything about that, or even that he quote retired, because, and this is reverting back to Spider-Man: Far From Home, the morning announcements, as I mentioned earlier, that you could see the marching band come back in the middle of a basketball game and get run over, and there's just chaos. They also had an in memoriam
mm,
of the people who fought to get them back, who they lost and who had died. Vision was one of them. The Captain America was one, and then Tony and Natasha, of course. But
right.
no, I'm thinking that they may have said that Steve kind of perished in the
Mm-hmm.
quest to bring them back. So that kind of explains. Well, he just didn't love us enough to stay in the present. So
Now, I know, like, Torres brought up the idea of Steve living on a moon base, whatever. But I'm like, what if that is sort of true and old man Steve, after Peggy passed, is like just chilling up with Nick Fury up with the Skrulls on the damn space station somewhere, and all that's absolutely true. We find that out later.
I think that would be hilarious. I really do. Um, I don't know. It was like during that scene, he brought up Steve living on the moon, and I'm just like, no, that's Fury. It's Fury in space. It's not Cap.
But see, what I was gonna say, what if Cap's just chilling with Fury up there, like with the Skrulls? So I
Oh,
mean, who
I would
knows?
love it. I would die laughing. I would love it. I really would. I
Because
think
I
it would
mean
be hilarious.
that could be a way to tie in the Falcon and Winter Soldier into Captain Marvel 2 as well. Like,
It could very much
uh,
so.
I mean, it's a long shot, I'm sure, but Marvel's like done showed me enough times they don't bring something up without a reason for bringing it up. So I
Oh,
feel like we're gonna
absolutely.
find some answers to that before the end of this show.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you brought up a point about maybe, towards the end, Sam taking up, Captain America and, being that person that, Steve wanted him to be. I did read something earlier and it made a lot of sense. And it may to you, it may not. It may just be pulling this out of my head. But it said that the reason why this show is called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, whereas Wanda's was just WandaVision take on the sitcom kind of name,
Mm-hmm.
is because this is going to be the last time they go by those names. By the end, Sam is going to be Captain America and Bucky will be the White Wolf.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would
Okay.
love to see that. And that's why it's called Captain America or the Falcon and the Winter Soldiers, because they're going to be moving on from those titles.
Oh, okay. Now you got me sold. Now I can't wait. It needs to be next week. Now I can't wait any longer. I've got to see what happens. So, all right, guys. So that's been our spoiler review of episode 1 of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like I said, I'm Rob. That was Jenna. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you give us a thumbs up, hit a subscribe, see what we think of the rest time. And until next time, bye-bye.